ICW, ICW, ICW. I see motherfucking W, maniacs. I am original ICW fan Robert Lottie. No Holds Barred 24, Volume 24 was my first time seeing ICW for the first time in years, and the first time seeing ICW since it became a deathmatch company 2 years ago. I gotta say, with work and, getting stuck in traffic on the way over, I was thinking maybe I shouldn't go, but of course I'd already paid for a ticket online. And unfortunately, because it was like, I actually wanted to stop at a pizza place not far from the show. Unfortunately, the place had already closed. Either they closed for the day or they'd been closed for some time. I guess Google Maps need to update some of these businesses. And, if it wasn't for, if I was able to have meat on Fridays during Lent, I would have stopped at that Mexican place to get a chicken burrito. But luckily I wasn't hungry. But the point is, I arrived at the show, and unfortunately I had to stand. And, I'll say right now, I will think twice about going to an ICW show on a Friday night. My back was hurting, one of my knees was hurting, my feet were hurting from standing all that time. And I'll probably have more of that before this video is out. But, like a short time after I get to the building, I find a spot in the room to just be right close to a door, and I'm standing. And a few minutes later, the show begins as ICW owner Danny D'Amato comes out with his usual "What's up, motherfuckers?" to get the crowd hyped up, and introduces Larry Legend. Eventually, the crowd chanted, "Fuck Dallas," well, if you want to do the town. And eventually, Larry takes the microphone, and we start out with Tank with the Reverend. They come to the ring, and Reverend takes the microphone, cuts a promo. Couldn't quite hear him. And but then all of a sudden, "Sweet Caroline" by Neil Diamond starts playing, and out comes Tank's opponent, Neil Diamond Cutter, to kick off this what turned to be a wild event. They start with a bar fight. They're sitting in chairs, facing each other, hitting each other over the head with water cooler bottles. Neil brought a staple gun to the ring. Neil got put through a door. There was like, I don't know what that one item, it was like popping and exploding. It wasn't firecrackers, but I don't know what those things were. ICW's got a 2 club, by the way. The end of this match came when Neil put Tank through what seemed like carpet strips laying in one of the corners and rolled him up and pinned him to win the opening match. Next up we saw the Carnage Crew, Tony DeVito and H.C. Loke, who, by the way, they came out to the Baldies theme. I forgot what their theme was when they worked for Ring of Honor. As they did battle with the fathers of the style of today, Jose and Joel Maximo, the SAT. Before they even made contact, DeVito's arguing with a fan in the front row, and that fan, he's like, gets up and he bumps into those special lights up in the corner, and they went out for a few seconds, and the fans chanted, "You fucked up, Adam." The fans are eating this fan alive, They were even, at one point they were chanting, "Suck his dick." Come on, guys, you actually want to see that? They eventually brawl in the crowd. They were doors breaking. I know H.C. Loke bled in the match. The end came when the SAT hit a Doomsday DDT on DeVito, where I think it was Jose that jumped off that one of the platforms they had set up on the ring post, and hit a DDT on DeVito, who was on Joel's shoulders, and pinned him to pick up the victory. And after the match, one of the fans had a piece of one of the broken doors, and Loke, he took that board and he smeared his blood on his forehead, that was on his forehead on it, so I guess it could now be worth more money on eBay. Larry Legend was speaking, got back in the ring before we introduced the next match, and had I not waved to him, he might not have noticed me in the crowd. And he even said it to the crowd, "Robert Lottie is here," and oh, my eyes. Lottie is here, and he was happy that I made it. And by the way, Larry, I was there. That was no April Fool's joke. Next up was a good match. We saw Isaiah Bronner, or Bronner, spelled Broner, took on Tommy Vendetta. Not sure if this was Isaiah's ICW debut or not, but Isaiah speared Vendetta through a door. He hit a German suplex. There were light tubes galore used in this match, and throughout the whole show, light tubes, breaking, and I'll get back to the light tubes as well. More on that later. Some old LP records were used to hit each over the head with them. At one point, this was a really sick and wicked moment that popped the crowd when Isaiah hit a lariato on Vendetta, who was like swinging light tubes, and those things exploded, and the crowd really exploded for that. Well, the crowd went nuts for that moment. The end came when Tommy Vendetta hit not one, not two, but 3 pile drivers in a row and pinned him to win the match. And after the match, they embraced, and the fans are chanting, "Please come back," and hopefully Isaiah does get to come back to ICW in the future. And between matches, you got to hand it. It's a heck of a ring crew they've got, because they had to, between matches, they had to like clean up the ring. They had to, sweep up debris with push brooms, and I'll say this: they are the hardworking ring crew, and whether or not they're getting paid to do that, they should get a bonus. And also, I will say this: the referee, he iron refed the show, and he should also get a bonus whether or not he's getting paid already. But I think next time he might want to consider getting more protective equipment. It's one thing to put on gloves, but it gets wear a face shield so nothing goes flying into his eyes or on his face or anything. And I even noticed him outside after the show. All right. Next up, we saw Casey Kirk go up against Danny DeMonto, accompanied the ring by Mittens. And before Larry Legend could even get through the introductions, Casey hits Danny from behind with light tubes. She took lemons and squeezed the juice out of him into the wounds. Then she took a container of salt and poured that into his wounds. Danny eventually retaliates. It looked like he was going for a regalplex, but he ended up a backbreaker. Out on the floor, Danny accidentally hits Mittens with some kind of a bat with those. And again, they're not fire because that's some type of popping noise they are, and they went off, and I think Mittens was no longer a factor in that match. Danny and Casey using light tubes on each other. The end came when Danny was down on the mat, and Casey Kirk jumped on top of some kind of a chair, kind of like an elbow drop with a chair, and she pinned Danny to win the matchup. But then all of a sudden, out from the crowd comes Azriel, who originally was going to wrestle DeMonto on this event. He attacks Danny. Mittens finally gets up. He's trying to get up, and Azrael attacks him, but then all of a sudden, Metallica's Enter Sandman starts playing, and up in the balcony we see former ECW champion the Sandman, and boy, it's amazing. ECW closed its doors 21 years ago, and it's amazing that here we are in the year 2022 that the Sandman gets a huge ovation pop from the crowd. And at that moment we had another round of Impact, or should I say, No Holds Barred karaoke. I forgot to mention earlier, when Neil Diamond Cutter came to the ring for the opening match, and after he was victorious over Tank, the people were singing Sweet Caroline as he came to the ring. The Sandman finally hits the ring, and he goes to town with his Singapore cane on Azriel. Danny gets the microphone, and he says, "I think it's time that Mittens became a man." And the ECW theme starts playing. Out comes Kimona Wanalea, who managed Raven in ECW, and years later she was Leia Meow in WCW with the Young Dragons. And Kimona's like sizing Mittens up, like feeling his hair. She gets behind him, and she left the ring with him. And like I said, and what a night this was. And to think I was thinking about not going. Whew. Next up, in a battle of big men, we saw Satu Jin, who came to the ring to Sugar by System of a Down, took on New Jersey's own Jeff Cannonball, who hit the ring to Because the Night by the 10,000 Maniacs. Unless it's an earlier version that I don't know sings that original version. But they actually poured salt around, in a circle of salt in the ring before this matchup, the ring crew that is, and Satu and Cannonball, Jin and Cannonball, they're doing sumo stances, like, and the crowd's chanting sumo deathmatch, and they were like shoulder blocking each other, and then they were grabbing each other like sumo wrestlers, trying to like pick each other up and get like 1 or 2 feet out of the sumo ring. Eventually, I forgot if it was Cannonball or Jin, one of them took a bite out of each other, and I said, well, that's not a sumo move. And the brutality, or the fuckery, as they say, began. There was like a crate full of LP records brought into play, and they bar brawled, like in the section in the side of the room I was in. They're sitting down, they're breaking LP records over each other's heads. Some of them didn't even break. Eventually, the end came when Jin chokeslammed Cannonball through a board on 2 chairs and pinned him to win the match. Eesh. Next up, we see the Bev, Bobby Beverly, take on Schlack. And at this point in time, I really couldn't pay attention to what these two were doing to each other, because so much with the light tubes breaking and on the chaos and the bloodshed and that whole enchilada. All I can remember in the finish was that Schlack defeated Bobby Beverly with a elbow from the top rope onto a bunch of light tubes that were laying on Beverly's prone body. Next up, we see former American Deathmatch champion, the Duke, John Wayne Murdoch. He comes to the ring, and he's got the Game Changer Wrestling Ultraviolet Championship, which he won the night before from Alex Colon. And Murdoch cut a promo, and I forgot what he said to Colon. And the fans are chanting, "Fuck Colon." And at that point in time, I actually said, wait a minute, you don't want to put that on? Although I know they're referring to Alex Colon and not cologne that men put on to smell good. But Murdoch went one-on-one with Atticus Cogar, who recently stopped working for Game Changer Wrestling, and they went at it. They were light tubes again. Baseball bat with thumbtacks, I believe they used. At one point, Murdoch hit a destroyer out of the corner with the small platform there. Destroyer off that platform through, I don't know if it was a board or a door on tables. Eventually, Bobby Beverly and Eric Ryan come out and interfered. Atticus hits a bulldog driver, and Atticus Cogar was victorious over the Duke, John Wayne Murdoch. Then it was time for the main event, as we see Dale Patricks, who came to the ring to Metallica's The Memory Remains, challenge Eric Ryan for the American Deathmatch Championship. But prior to the matchup, there were light tubes set up, lined up against the two sides of the ring against the chains. My. Can't really remember much about this matchup but the fans pretty much crapped on the finish. The referee stopped the match when Ryan repeatedly stomping Dale Patrick and retained the championship. Well, personal notes time. Actually, I should say this. original ICW owner Jack Sabbath was in the building. It was great seeing him. Louis Tamiso, who used to frequent NYWC shows long ago. Great seeing Jason Bob 87. I noticed Mikey Mickendrow, Young Boy Lawrence. Elliot, I noticed in the crowd. The gorgeous Rhea, she was standing in the balcony. Let's see what else I can say. Well, I'm sorry to say this, but I'm sure, granted, deathmatch wrestling is not for everybody, but there's got to be a concern or a line drawn for safety. So many light tubes were breaking, and so many remnants and portions were exploded, flying into the crowd. I mean, that hit somebody in the eye, that could, constitute a lawsuit right there. So I don't know if any precautions are going to be taken in the future. And also, as nice as that room was, it's small, very, very small. I hope maybe someday you can go to a place in Jersey with a bigger room. Also, so many fans in the crowd were saying, "Punch him in the dick, twist his dick." Come on, you want to see that? Unreal. But I will say, ICW was the very first independent promotion that I followed. It's definitely been a different kind of animal now these past 2 years, because it's, we know it's not like Jack Sabbath's ICW from years back. Let me see what else I could say about this event. Because I really, as I said earlier, I can't really stand at a wrestling show because, it ain't worth ending up in pain and, not and having not a hard time getting home, but, just that. Oh, I mean, by the way, because I did had to stop in New York City to get something to eat on the way home, and as a result, I didn't get home till after 2 o'clock in the morning. And you'd think, the show went past 11 p.m. and there was no intermission. And by the way, we got a memorable quote. Yeah. Those are some record-breaking hits. One of the security men who came inside and found himself watching a little bit of the show. A little bit of the show. I mean, of course, they were making sure nobody brought weapons into the building. But something. I'm sorry, ICW. It's something there's gotta be some safety precautions need to be taken. I mean, we don't want fans going home with something stuck in their eye or stuck in their arm or stuck in their forehead. And I forgot who it was on the show that used barbecue skewers and jammed into his opponent's arm. I mean, when that happened, I said, "Hey, that is not a vaccine." And I wasn't trying to make any jokes about it, but it's true. Oh, man. Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. But I will say also, I don't know if anybody else from the early years of ICW will ever appear in the company again. I mean, granted, not everybody, deathmatch wrestling is not everybody's cup of tea in pro wrestling, but I know in the past you've had Homicide, Dan Moff, the Grim Reaper. We just had the SAT on this show. Azrael did a past ICW, either Pit Fighter or No Holds Barred show. I don't know, ICW, if we'll ever see other original ICW wrestlers from the past, like, say, maybe the Greek god Papa Don or Low Key, because I don't think he wrestles too often anymore. Amazing Red. I know in the past you've had the likes of Nick Gage, Casanova Valentine. Actually, one person in mind. I don't know if you could if would get him Aiden Bale. He would like he'd probably do well in ICW No Holds Barred. Who else could I think of from ICW's early years, or well, past years, I should say? Even though they're not doing bloodshed and death matches and bloodshed. Man, oh man, oh man. Well, one thing I will say, ICW presents No Holds Barred Volume 25, is it? Yeah, it's number 25, because I'm doing 24 here. That's going to be held in Boston on Sunday. Yes, Sunday, May 15th from Sonia Middle East in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Match is already announced for this one. We have Casey Kirk one-on-one with her husband, Brandon Kirk. And the King of the No Ring Death Match, Casanova Valentine, takes on Cruel, spelled Krule, not to be confused with Mike Cruel, who used to wrestle for USA Pro Wrestling in the past. Let me see, what else is there? So ICW, you definitely did great. For anybody out there, I want to say, anybody out there, they think match wrestling, it's all blood and guts. I say, you know what? Come see ICW No Holds Barred live before you before making a judgment call. Because I could say, even though deathmatch is not for everyone, not everybody digs it and all, but I gotta say, ICW No Holds Barred is some wonderful shit. ICW, ICW, ICW.